The team representing former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has dismissed reports that Ken Ofori-Atta is fleeing justice. The team says the Office of the Special Prosecutor's decision to declare his client a wanted person is unfair, insisting that publicizing charges does not amount to guilt. Let's now get some reaction to this and speak to anti-corruption campaigner Adam Senano, who now joins us via Zoom. Grateful to you, sir, for joining us here on the ChannelOne newsroom. First of all, let me get your initial reaction as an anti-corruption campaigner. If the OSP acted appropriately in declaring the former finance minister wanted again with reports that he has been unwell.
Well, unfortunately, it appears that Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta and his lawyers left the special prosecutor with no choice. From the earlier engagements, they had committed to ensuring that he'll be available on the 2nd or the 6th of June. I can't remember now. Even in the earlier engagements, the issue of concern had always been, where is the medical report that confirms his circumstances, the procedures, what timelines? And so it is, in terms of due diligence, a credible piece of evidence for any professional institution to say, okay, we can go with this. I mean, feeling that kind of correspondence, what the lawyers could have done was to have facilitated an engagement between the special prosecutor and whichever medical facility and its team of leadership, just as an assurance that, look, these things are actually happening and what have you. It didn't happen. And from January, February, we've gone all the way to June. A week before you're supposed to show up, or less than a week, I think 4 days or so, you then suddenly write saying there's going to be, I mean, without the supporting evidence, they left the special prosecutor with no choice. And I think it's a very unfortunate situation.
In your analysis of the situation, do you support the view that Ken Ofori-Atta is evading justice?
To a certain extent, there's a disconnect. I still can't wrap my mind around 2 or 3 factors. One of them is, even in February, March, we kept saying, make sure that the medical facility provides a report with its letterhead, a logo, with numbers, with names of who is responsible, so that the necessary background checks can be done by the special prosecutor or whichever intelligence unit to confirm that this is a situation and this is what's going to happen. That didn't happen. Now, in this last instance, 24 hours after the OSP had said, I'm going to do this, they then circulate a letter purportedly from, I forgot the name of the institution in the US, is it Yomo or Moyo or something clinic?
Mayo Clinic.
Mayo, yeah, Mayo Clinic. A document which they had not formally given to the OSP. However, we discovered that the date of that letter was it appears there have been 2 letters, one in February and this subsequent one, which was generic to whom it may concern. I mean, if they had followed up properly, this should have been targeted at the special prosecutor. And somehow nobody gave them a copy of what happened in February. What did this clinic say in February? So is it the case that in February, they knew that they could not have done this by June, or what transpired? So somehow they have not been forthcoming, and I'm not quite sure why. We do know from the data across the continent that many politicians of high-level politicians are reportedly said to fall sick once corruption charges are laid against them, and this continues for years. If you talk to other jurisdictions, they'll say that this is a phenomenon across the continent. And at the end of the day, nothing really happens if you're not careful. So, honestly speaking, I am not convinced that they are making every effort to ensure that Mr. Ofori-Atta is available. Otherwise, it's not clear why they never submitted the documentation, why they've not facilitated a proper engagement, and why they waited 4 days to the date they themselves had committed to suddenly say he cannot be available. Something does not add up.
Now, while we're on the matter of the special prosecutor, Kisia Jabin says that The office remains Ghana's best instrument at fighting corruption. Some people have even called for the office to be scrapped. What is your position on the special prosecutor?
Well, I mean, the history will show. I mean, the last years, uh, the only office that appears to be upfront in handling matters dealing with public officers of a current government appears to be the OSP. The only ones who are calling out, who appear to have been calling out officers, high levels, appears to be the OSP. And that has been a gap that we've been concerned about, that typically within the reign of a government, nobody is holding the officers of that current government accountable for actions that seem to be remiss. And to that extent, in my mind, there's no doubt that we do need the office of the special prosecutor. And I guess it also reflects because of what was put in their statutes. The Act 959 I think is all encompassing and grants them a certain level of mandate that they cannot run away from. And maybe perhaps that's why they're the only group who are somebody's a minister and there's a question and they are willing to, follow up. I think it's very important. So I would not say that they are the only institution pursuing anti-corruption and good governance. I think other institutions are also at work. But in terms of the optics of who is being bold enough to hold current officers accountable, at the moment, it appears to be the special prosecutor.
All right, Mr. Sanonu, briefly before you go, I think 2 days ago there was a national anti-corruption conference. You were heavily involved in that. What were the major takeaways for you from that conference, briefly?
Well, all African countries, I mean, I am on the African Union Advisory Board Against Corruption. And one of the things that member states who signed and ratified the convention with the African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption is that you should make yourself available to an audit, an anti-corruption audit. The first thing is that when a country allows itself to undergo that kind of country review, it shows that leadership is beginning to take this matter seriously. So far, we've had only 12 African countries out of the 49, 50 who've ratified. So we have 50 countries, only 12 have made that decision to allow the country review. So I was proud of Ghana that we took the initiative voluntarily to allow ourselves to go through, so that the entire week we engaged the presidency, the chief justice, the parliament, and various key institutions, Attorney General. We had sent a questionnaire ahead for civil society and other groups to answer, the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, EOCO, what have you. That will give us some information where we're going to make specific recommendations on what Ghana can do better. That's the whole purpose, to identify gaps and weaknesses and make recommendations that allow the anti-corruption architecture of the country to be strengthened.
All right.
And I think that Ghana has done well by acceding to this country review.